Welcome to the TV Lounge, a place where we get together to view and discuss lesser-known TV series. You know, there are plenty of places to discuss the latest hit shows, but we're here to tell you about some older programs you might not have heard of or watched. Some are quite good, and others, well, they're worthy of discussion and dissection. So have a seat here in the extra recliner and join us in the TV Lounge. Welcome to the introductory episode of the TV Lounge podcast. Hi, I'm John Bailey, and I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, my son, Andy. Hi, Andy.
Hey, Dad. In this episode, we're going to explain what the TV Lounge is all about.
Yeah, as we stated in the show's intro, the TV Lounge is a place where we're going to talk about TV shows that are not currently on the air. These could be older shows going all the way back to the 60s, or programs that have recently ended. Shows like 1967's Invaders or Erie, Indiana from 1991. And the program we're going to start with is 1997 BBC production called Crime Traveler.
That's right. In the TV Lounge, we're not going to cover current shows. We're not going to cover sitcoms. Current shows, we're not going to cover them because, there are already plenty of podcasts out there that focus on those shows.
And typically, the TV Lounge podcast is going to feature an episode like this one we're doing right now, kind of an initial episode to give some background information about the series we're going to cover. And then every subsequent podcast is going to feature a breakdown of the episode, complete with audio clips and a very complete synopsis. So anybody listening will want to be warned that the recaps are detailed and there will be spoilers. And then after each recap, we'll have some thoughts of our own about the episode and a little preview of the next episode. But now, Andy, why don't you give us a little information about this first series we're going to be covering?
All right. Well, Crime Traveler, it's a 1997 science fiction detective television series produced for the BBC. Basically, the premise is using time travel to solve crimes. It was a pretty short-lived series. It only ran for 8 episodes. But you can get DVDs of the series, through Netflix or Amazon.
The man named Anthony Horowitz is the guy who created the series. He wrote every one of the 8 episodes. And they said that despite having over 8 million viewers on a regular basis, Crime Traveler was not renewed after this first series. Now, this is what Horowitz had to say, quote, "The show wasn't exactly cut. There was a chasm at the BBC created by the arrival of a new head of drama, and our run ended at that time. And there was no one around to commission a new series, so it just didn't happen." He said there were other sources at the time that said the BBC was concerned about a steady decrease in the viewing numbers, and they feared that those figures would just continue to decline if they renewed Crime Traveler.
Here's the story behind the series. You've got Jeff Slade, who is a detective with the CID of the local police force, led by Kate Grisham. Slade, he's a good detective. He gets results, although his approach is a bit outside the box. His methods have more than once landed him in trouble. And among Slade's colleagues at the department is science officer Holly Turner, who has a secret. Holly owns a working time machine that was built by her late father. And the machine is able to take Slade and Holly back far enough in time to witness a crime as it happens and then hopefully discover who committed it.
Now, the series starred Michael French as Jeff Slade. French is best known as a star in the series EastEnders. He played a lovable rogue by the name of David Wicks. After leaving EastEnders, he was approached to play a number of characters who were just like the Wicks character. But at the time, he wanted to play someone completely different, which was one of the reasons he turned down a 6-figure contract to stay on the EastEnders and to become part of Crime Traveler.
His co-star, Chloe Annette, who plays Holly Turner, she is best known to the sci-fi world as an alternate universe version of Lister's ex-girlfriend in Red Dwarf 7. And then, in addition to the main characters of Slade and Turner, the head of detectives is Kate Grisham, played by Sue Johnston. Not a lot is known about Grisham's character, except that she has 27 years of police experience, and she does what she can to keep Slade in check. She also regards Holly as a competent scientist whose main function, is to provide forensic evidence to support their cases.
And then, Andy, there's Nikki Robson, played by Richard Dempsey. Nikki's the prime example of someone who's just recently graduated from police training. he hasn't been tarnished by the stark reality of police work. He's still looking for that simple textbook case solution. And as we see, Nicky is somewhat naive. He tends to take things at face value. He's easily led around and he's easily lied to, but he is learning. And then there's the detective character, Detective Morris, played by Paul Trussell. He's that one fumbling detective, and he's often the target of Slade's comments and ridicule.
And even though the characters of Slade and Hunter use her time machine to solve the crimes, they do have certain rules of time travel. For example, number one, the time machine sends the traveler back in time by a random interval. Usually this is about a day, but it may be as little as a few minutes or as much as a week. So they can't really predict how far they're going to actually go back.
The second rule of time travel, you must not meet yourself in the past. Now, it's not clear what would happen if you did, but we can presume that it really wouldn't be very good.
And then number three, they cannot change the past. In other words, they can investigate the crime, but no matter what they do, they can't do anything to stop it from happening.
And we've seen this in the series where they've actually tried to prevent a crime from happening, but they can't change what has happened in the past. Another rule of time travel, I should say, you cannot exist more than twice in the same time frame. If you try to go back a second time, the machine will fail to operate. In other words, if you went back to yesterday and you didn't get everything done and you tried to go back to yesterday again, it just wouldn't happen. You couldn't go back.
And also, when in the past, you must get back to the time machine by the time you left. And that means if you travel back, say, 2 hours, you have to be back at the time machine before that 2 hours runs out. Otherwise, Holly says you'll be trapped in a loop of infinity. And then we find out that that's what happened to Holly Turner's father.
And finally, the time machine never travels into the future. Holly tells Jeff in the first episode, you can't travel into something that doesn't exist.
And so there's a brief overview of Crime Traveler. We think you'll enjoy this short-run series, and of course we do recommend either picking up a copy of the series or renting it. Watch it along with us episode by episode, and join us for our review of Crime Traveler.
And on the next TV Lounge podcast, we're going to jump right into the first episode of Crime Traveler. It's entitled Jeff Slade and the Loop of Infinity. In this one, Slade learns about the time machine from Holly, and together they use it to investigate the apparent suicide of a wealthy millionaire. His body was discovered inside a locked room with gun in hand. But was it really suicide or was it murder?
We'll find out on the next TV Lounge podcast.